Okay, perfect. Okay. Welcome. I wish to call to order this regular meeting of council on September 8th at 3:30. Council would like to acknowledge the Ucluelet First Nation on whose traditional territories the District of Ucluelet operates. Notice of video recording. Audience members and delegates are advised that this proceeding is being video recorded and broadcast on YouTube. Zoom is also being used to conduct this meeting. Zoom may store data on foreign servers. There's one late agenda item. Does everybody have that? Okay, perfect. Looking for approval of the agenda with the one late item.
I'll
So
approve
moved.
agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you very much. And we have a few adoptions here. First, I'd like to make the adoption of August 12th special council meeting.
I'll move adoption.
Second.
Any errors or omissions? Looking at you, Councillor Hoare. No? Oh, on that one? Okay, perfect. Oh, this is exciting. Perfect. Okay. Hearing and seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Next set's from August the 13th, special meeting. Looking for adoption.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second, Councillor Kemps. Any errors or omissions? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. And the last set's from August 18th, regular council meeting minutes. Looking for adoption.
Move adoption.
I'll second.
Perfect. Any errors or omissions? Oh, I thought it was one of these ones. Okay, I got it. Okay. You had me the anticipation there.
And we're all waiting.
Jennifer was even looking. Okay. All in favor?
What did I miss?
Opposed, carried. Thank you. Any unfinished business? No. Mayor's announcements. I don't have anything official, but I'd just like to just do a shout out again to the community. We've seemed to have gotten through the big hump of the summer of 2020. It's great to see a lot of the business community is as busy as they are. I think they're hoping that it's going to slow down a little bit, but on a positive note, that's been great for a lot of different sectors in our community, and it's definitely been a roller coaster. Obviously, some of the struggles that we all have that we hear in our community is what's going on in the back roads, and I know that staff and ACRD and a few other groups are definitely starting to bite on that subject matter a little bit more heavily. So other than that, I just really want to just thank the community for everything it's been doing to this point. Public input. Mr. Rotenberg, any questions or comments from the public?
If it's my son, just ignore him.
There's no minimum age.
Right? No, he's found out how to be watching us.
Oh, got it. Okay.
My phone turned off, so
There's no public input at this time.
Okay. And hearing and seeing none. Delegations. So we have one delegation, and they are zooming in. Marcus, it's all on you now. Welcome.
Hello.
Where are you? Where are you? Give us a big picture of Marcus.
There they are.
There he is. Well, thanks, Marcus. You've got some time to present to us, and this I must make just a quick observation. Your report. Who did your report? Did you hire somebody, or is this you?
No, it was all in-house, so
Wow.
definitely a collaborative effort between all the board members. But yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I just want to start with that first compliment. Where it's it's just great to see the detail, and I know you guys are eating and breathing this 24/7, so I appreciate it. So, I'm gonna give the floor to you, Marcus. So, if you want to start and tell us a little bit about your group and where you're at and where you want to go.
Yeah, awesome. Do you guys have the slideshow available?
Just give her a second there. Can you hear Nicole? No. Okay. We're just going to get this set up for you.
Yeah, no worries. That's great. Awesome. Cool. Right on. And yeah, and then we have to ask you to advance the slides. That's correct.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, great. We'll get going then. So yeah, thank you for having us here today. My name is Marcus Renala, Executive Director of Ucluelet Mountain Bike Association. And this is Nick Halatko, our treasurer. And we'd like to fill you in on our proposal for bike trail network in the Barkley Community Forest. So could you advance 3 slides to the outline? So yeah, today I'd like to take you through the executive summary and let you know exactly what we're asking for. And then I'm going to pass it over to Nick for a few more minutes, and he's going to fill you in on some more details. And you can take her to the next one. So yeah, a little bit of background. Over the last 20 years, there's been a exponential growth in mountain biking within British Columbia, a huge surge in popularity. And it's gone from being a fringe element in sport to a really, really significant economic driver in a lot of different communities. It's become an integral part of promoting healthy lifestyle, youth programming, volunteer opportunities. And it's really important to note that the single largest reason for this growth in popularity has been a big shift in the style of trails being built towards networks that are very, very inclusive. So they're very appealing to a wide range of skill levels. And you can have entire families riding the same trails, getting involved, volunteering. And this is the biggest reason for the growth. Throughout this huge surge in popularity, it's really been the nonprofit trail societies throughout British Columbia that have been have taken the lead in terms of development and also maintenance, ongoing maintenance. What we see with the Barkley Community Forest is a very strong mandate for balance of timber harvesting and recreational activity. And what Ucluelet Mountain Bike Association would really like to see is development of a trail network to fully realize the recreational benefit of the area. And of course, also the associated potential tourism revenue that comes along with this. The Barkley Community Forest Board has already commissioned a professional development master plan, which is included in the larger document bundle that you've all been handed today. And it has identified ideal zones within the Barkley Community Forest to develop the same kind of user-friendly, very inclusive mountain bike trails. And then looking at the big picture, Ucluelet Mountain Bike Association really sees the opportunity to create a unifying trail network, physically linking Ucluelet First Nation, Ucluelet Municipality, and Toquat First Nation as an unprecedented opportunity for mutually beneficial collaboration between the communities. And could you move to the next slide? So, down to brass tacks, what we are asking for is the support of the district in the building of a multi-phase bike trail network within the Barkley Community Forest. We would like to have written support from council to the Barkley Community Forest, authorizing a formal land use agreement. We'd like to see written support from council to Barkley Community Forest, authorizing the release of $183,000 from an upcoming Barkley Community Forest dividend to complete year 1, phases 1 through 7 of the Community Forest Bike Trail Master Plan that we've provided you with, as well as $18,300 or approximately 10% of capital investment, which is industry standard for annual maintenance budget from the District of Ucluelet. And it's also very important to note, something we'd really like to emphasize is that this seed money is just the beginning. And what it's going to allow us to do is look for a lot of matching grant dollars to continue advancing this initiative in the years to come. So yeah, that's the rough outline, and I'm going to pass it over to Nick now, and he's just going to fill you in on a few more details about the actual plan.
Yeah, so if you want to go to the next slide. So this photo right here just shows, this is kind of an iconic photo that we have of a local mountain biker dropping into Root Chute. It's like the oldest trail that we have out in that network. And as you can see, the views are just like breathtaking. So next slide. A little history about the trails. The first trail was built on Mount Ozard 20 years ago, long before trail networks were widely sanctioned across BC. The trails had a very difficult, limited community participation. So by 2017, interest and hard work started to pick back up on Mount Ozard. We put in over 750 volunteer hours in the last 2 years, and it's resulted in 4 new trails being built and maintained to a great level. In 2020, we created UMBA, and it's led to a formal land use agreement with the Ucluelet First Nations. And next slide. We hope that's the start. So the role of mountain biking in small communities. Next slide. As Marcus already pointed out, the history and evolution, we've seen a 20-year explosion of growth. This inclusive trail networks with green and blue intermediate trails that are fun for everybody, even for experts, because the way they're built, the jumps are all tabletops. There's lots of big flowy berms, and they're really fun at any kind of speed and any skill level. The community benefits are really endless. A couple of perfect examples of transformations of towns would be Cumberland and Burns Lake. These used to be really rough kind of fringe towns. And then with the explosion of mountain biking and a lot of investment in trails, we've seen them become these really like huge recreational destination towns that people travel to. As far as economic benefits go, we have one impact study that was done in the Sea to Sky corridor, and we found that in 2016, there was $70.6 million of non-resident spending that was directly attributed to mountain bike trail networks in the area. Next slide. So recreational youth programming, again, we see this as like a huge opportunity for youth. It'll complement the secondary schools that we have in our community and all the different programs and benefits that there are. Involvement of First Nations, we've already briefly touched on this. We just see it as an unprecedented opportunity to bring together all the communities in our area. And as far as bringing new people to the communities, we really find that mountain biking really plays a vital role in attracting new, young, vibrant, and productive members to our community. Next slide. We'll get into the Barkley Community Forest Master Plan. Here's a brief overview of the master plan. The BCF commissioned a trail development plan that has not yet been utilized. UMBA has been created to facilitate the potential growth and maintenance of these future trails. Next slide. The ecological information, the nuts and bolts of this is that the Barkley Community Forest already commissioned a survey that was done by professionals that has shown us that this area is perfect to build mountain bike trails, and the soil is great. And so that's what's really important there. Next slide. Here's the conceptual layout. This is for year one, phase one, as well as the next few years moving forward. And have a look, the 2 small triangles that you see in the center of the map, the black and purple triangles, that's the parking lot. And what's most important to note is where the green trails come down below the parking lot. So they're really easy to access, they're beginner friendly. And as you move higher up in the network, the trails are gonna get harder. And as you ride further away, you have to be a more experienced rider to be able to handle that. The red lines that you'll see are existing logging roads. And one of the biggest costs in building trail networks is developing a climbing trail because of the extensive work it takes. One of the benefits of using this area is there's already existing logging roads that just need some extensive clearing and a little bit of regrading to make them really accessible. And then we can go on further from there. Next slide. So here's just the year one, the 7 phases, and I'm gonna go through them in the next part here. So on the next slide, phase one, like I mentioned, is going to be rebuilding, and this is all going to happen in year one. We're going to have the rebuilt of the logging roads so that we can climb up. This isn't going to be a shuttle network. It's going to be a pedal network to promote healthy lifestyles. So phase 2 and 3 are going to be blue flow access trails. So they're going to come, there's going to be one flow downhill trail and one flow trail with a technical aspect. Next slide. Phase 4 will get a green trail built. So that'll be one of the 3 green trails down in the bottom, as well as another blue intermediate technical trail and one more blue flow trail. So as you can see in the first year, we're going to have a bunch of trails built and people will be able to ride multiple days on this network with linking up different trails and different days. And on the next slide, phase 7 would be the parking lot and kiosk. And this is going to be a great opportunity to have a kiosk where we can advertise all the parties that were involved in this project, how we've got it started, whose land we're on, how we're using the land, as well as we'll have a safety and emergency tips. And this area, we see future growth to even have a skills park where people can come and ride their bikes, maybe with some jumps and multiple levels of drops to practice on. And so we see this as the nice center area of the whole network. And lastly, on the last slide here, just some examples in case you aren't mountain bikers of what these trails kind of look like. We have on the top 2 pictures there, those would be our classic blue flow trails. I like to describe them as a roller coaster. They're downhill, they're flowy, they're just so much fun. The bottom left would be a green flow trail. So it's very similar to the blue style, but just on a lower grade, easy for everyone, easy for beginners, no mandatory drops, anything like that. And then bottom right is just a picture of a technical trail and a combination of that. So this was just a very brief overview of our whole plan. We would like to acknowledge everybody that helped us out to get all this information. And we'd also like to turn your attention to the proposal that we sent in hard copy. We've also sent in a digital copy with all the color so that you guys can refer to that. It's got a very in-depth on the plan as well as future growth of where we see this network could go. And if you guys have any questions, we'd love to answer them now, or at any other point, you can contact us personally as well.
Perfect. That was wonderful to hear. Any questions from any councillors? Councillor Hoare?
I noticed that when you refer to the ecological information of the sites, you're referring to the soil, but you don't make any reference to the wildlife. And my concern is that, while I love mountain biking, I've done it for years, the thing about mountain bike trails is that they can cause habitat fragmentation for our wildlife, and they also allow a different pattern of travel. As well, they can block movement for some animals and they can facilitate movement for others. So it can actually have quite a significant impact on the wildlife of an area. So I'm wondering if you guys have looked into that. My part 2 of my question is, because I'm thinking about the impact of all the creatures, is that how do you deal with rogue trails? Because I know that rogue trails get built a lot off existing trails, and that, of course, can cause even more issues for animals and safety and all of those things because they're not properly built.
Yeah, so maybe I'll tackle your second question first. In terms of unsanctioned trails being built, the long and the short of it is that they're going to go in no matter what. And what we would like to do is provide a comprehensive framework to enable people to work within the system. This has been how things have developed pretty much everywhere throughout the province. And there's been a lot of success with this model and the reception that it's found with the public and their willingness to engage. So what we're trying to do here is not reinvent the wheel. We've been working quite closely with a lot of other very well-established trail associations that have followed this model. And even with our own dealings so far, it's a pretty good example in the land use agreement that we've secured with Ucluelet First Nation. So the existing trails on Mount Ozard were completely unsanctioned. but they were getting worked on anyways, and they were there anyways. And it's only through our advocacy and the formation of the society that we've been able to secure an insurance policy, secure a land use agreement, and create a framework for consensual building of new trail projects. In terms of wildlife impact,
There, in the package that we sent you, there is a much more in-depth section about the ecological impacts, and the actual Mountain Bike Association of I believe it's IMBA actually has a framework on how trails should be built and how they should be managed in a way that protects wildlife. A classic example of this is there's an area in Cumberland where there's a frog migration that goes over one of the trails. And during the period of time when those frogs are traveling, they actually close that trail off. So by having the trail sanctioned and allowed there, it allows us to be able to focus our energy as well and be able to tell people, no, you can't ride that trail because it is a sanctioned trail. We have control over it. And, you know, this time of the year, we have these impacts.
Also, the environmental issue was something that was brought up in the initial meeting that we had with Barkley Community Forest. So it was touched upon with Zoli and the rest of the Barkley Community Forest Board, and the actual selection of the area within the Barkley Community Forest for development, that is one of the criteria that made it acceptable, is the fact that in terms of the larger management, especially timber harvesting activities, it has been identified as a minimally invasive area to use. And it's also important to note that a good portion of these trails will actually be built through cut block. So it's not exactly virgin territory anyways.
Awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Kemps?
Marcus, have you guys, or are you guys getting an economic impact survey done? Like a report? Is that
In
something?
terms of commissioning one specifically for this area, it's not something that we looked into. I don't believe we have the economic means to pursue something like that at
I was
this point
just
in time. However, there are some very, very strong, well-founded studies that have been done throughout the province. The biggest one was in the Sea to Sky corridor, and there was a study that was done, I believe, in 2006, and then a follow-up in 2016. And that was for the communities of Whistler, Squamish, and North Vancouver. I believe we've included that entire study in the in the proposal. And that's where the figure of 70.6 million in outsider non-resident spending directly attributable to mountain biking within a single year in that region. So our economic forecast that we've provided you with in there, we based largely upon the numbers from this study, extrapolating by the number of trails in North Vancouver and the revenue they've experienced. And if anything, we believe that we've really erred on the side of caution. Something to take note of in that is that a lot of the non-resident spending from mountain bikers in the Sea to Sky corridor is only on a day trip basis. So the actual dollars per visit spent is quite low. However, when you're looking at bringing people out here, or the type of people that it's going to draw out here, you're not looking in double-digit dollars spent per trip. You'd be looking at figures far higher than that. But yeah, that's the entire economic forecast. I believe we played it out for 10 years with varying build out on the trail system. And that's all included in the documents that we provided you with.
Yeah, we actually provided 3 different financial projections based on, year one. We always want the exact same thing to happen in year one, which is to get these first 5 trails built. And then from then we've projected 3 different financial forecasts based on capital expenditure of the potential, tourism dollars, like Marcus said, based on that trail dollar per trail figure.
So in a marketing standpoint, So you'll be working directly with Tourism Euclid as well, correct? Throughout the phases, is that correct?
Yeah, so I've been in pretty close contact. We've received a lot of enthusiasm from their end. And that's actually been the first grant opportunity that we've been really actively pursuing as well. So we've got an application underway right now for a grant from Tourism Vancouver Island that does not require matching funds. So we're looking into a partnership with Ucluelet First Nation with the existing trail system on that. And it's our understanding that moving forward with this, there's a lot more money available through that avenue as well. That being said, our focus is less financial more than it is on really bringing benefit to the whole community. Obviously finances plays a part in that, and we're very happy to engage with Tourism Ucluelet, but we'd like to see the entire community benefit.
Just, you have something, go ahead.
Just to round out things, can you hear me? Am I here? Okay. First of all, when I looked at those last pictures about how you said they were beginner runs, I just thought of, for me, and from my separate lens from the environment or from the tourism perspective, I think about when I look at your safety and emergency response plan, and I'm certainly somebody who would probably need to utilize an emergency response plan if I was on a bike, helmet or no helmet. Some of those things look amazing. And I look at the part where it says assistance or evacuation, and just to be clear, BC Ambulance Service doesn't do evacuation. And without getting into specifics about the actual roads and the actual access to it, yes, that area would be within our catchment for response, but I think that it would be important to think about on the next page you talk about with special events and such, that you would need to look into extra coverage or possible private coverage for emergency response, because it is a ways out, and most recently we've been dealing with some back roads responses, and it is something that's the first thing that comes to my mind is that this is a high, well, what would be the name for it? Kind of not risky, but for me it would be risky, but for the average person who rides a mountain bike. But it is still, it's not an extreme sport, I guess, or is it? I guess it depends on to what level you take it to.
It depends on what level you take it at.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. So I have a concern there about the taxing of the ambulance service, as we only have one in Ucluelet, one ambulance that is, to respond to the community. And then later on it says that there would be current mapping, location of trails, roads, gates, etc., to the fire department and the West Coast Search and Rescue. So Search and Rescue, most certainly, because they would be the people helping us, but most likely you're not going to see our Ucluelet Fire Department responding to these locations. So certainly my hat off or on, BC Ambulance Service would be the one to want to have the latest information, because sometimes when you get out there, you state lower below that as well, that cell reception is sometimes there and sometimes not, and that's certainly the case, because when we're out there, we still have radio contact with our dispatch, but we lose our cell reception. So we would want to have in best to serve you, we would want to have maps and the latest information on trails and how we can help you, but that's my only concern. It's not really any questions, just sort of putting it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a very valid concern. I can tell you that with most trail networks, like say in Squamish, it is typically search and rescue that will respond to the majority of the calls. Perhaps there was a little bit of overrun in terms of who will get provided with what there. But obviously there will be some kinks to work out in the system, and we just want to make sure that we have all of our bases covered. So whether or not ambulance service would be the primary responder, which I believe they would not be, just to bring them up to the same page and make sure that everybody has all the information that they could possibly need was our main concern.
Yeah, Marcus. And again, I love the details gone in here. I just want to make sure, and I know I've spoken to you literally in my front yard about this, so it's great that you've come out and presented to council here in the community for those that are watching. I just, you have a couple requests, and I'm certain that the Barclay Community Forest is aware of your financial requests and they're aware of this document, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just so you know, as much as you want a written support letter, at the last AGM, it was very specific, because we are half the shareholders, to our board, that mountain biking trails are very important to us. So I don't think there's a need for a letter of support, other than the fact is we will continue to work with BCF to ensure that they provide the shareholders in the very near future some options how this could unfold, i.e. the financial component in your ask. We're very aware of the windfalls that are coming back to the community. So, we have spoken, I have spoken to the board members, and they know that they are going to be presenting us some options about how we can facilitate your financial ask. A letter of support, we're all supportive of this. It may not be moving as quickly as you would like, but I can tell you that in the background that everybody's very supportive of this concept, and we right now don't see any any roadblocks. And you have presented this. I know I've said it a second time. This you've presented to the community, to the Barclay Community Forest.
Yeah. So prior to the AGM, this entire document package that you've all been presented with was initially drawn up for their review.
Perfect.
So in taking this to you was in response to some concerns that were raised by members of the Barclay Community Forest Board. The long and the short of it is that we're aware that we're breaking some new ground here. Recreational development has not taken place there yet. And everybody's trying to figure out how to proceed right now. We've gotten a lot of support from Barclay Community Forest, but they also expressed concern of just wanting to know that they had support of council before moving forward with any kind of financial contribution.
For sure, and I know I think I've spoken to you about it too, and I'll just be quite frank with the rest of council here. Once there is a financial commitment by the Barclay Community Forest, your board itself is going to change. I know that you know that. You've got your board members you got today. I think that's one of the things that we're going to have to flesh out about how do you restructure a board, because you've gone from your club of the what's a concept, you've got to a great level. When we start putting funds in there, things like having representation from our board, whether it's community forest or whether it's TU, etc. I know that you know that, but I just want to make sure to give that plug. Nothing that needs to get changed today, but as this as your group grows and gets some more legs or wheels, I guess, and because we're very supportive of this, obviously your board is going to is probably going to evolve into something that might be a little bit different than what you see today. That's not a threat. That's just simply this. It's just simply we want to make sure when we talk about Tourism Ucluelet or Ucluethot or Toquat or Barclay Community Forest, that there is a fair representation at that table, not to handcuffed you guys with your dreams, just making sure that when those tough decisions are being made, that everyone's getting buy-in, and everyone has bought in. But I just want to make sure that your board is thinking about that as you're kind of getting into the next 90 days here, because there's a potential that the financial ask will hopefully happen here in the very near future as you guys get your agreements. I believe the great work that you've done with Ucluethot, really how quickly that moved. Like I've said to you personally, I think this is your group is going to be really bring these different communities together at a different level, and much like how our Wild Pacific Trail, we didn't have OJ 25 years ago, that wasn't okay, and I'm kind of penciling you guys with that same kind of brush a little bit. You're not okay with the no, and you're okay with the passion, and that's what it takes to get these things off the ground. So as my commitment, and I think all our commitments, is to really making sure you guys are supported at all levels, because I do believe that there is some great potential in the community forest for these type of activities. So, anyways, that's my long-winded thank you for the work that you're doing, and this report is it's really exceeded everybody's expectations, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, we're certainly open to having wider input. In the formation of Boomba, is the big picture has always been a unifying trail network.
Yeah.
And to have the opportunity to bring together input from the various communities would be
Ideal.
ideal.
No, it's great. So thanks again. And any final thoughts, questions? No? Okay. Thanks again for your time, and get out there, enjoy that weather, all right?
Thank you.
Take care, you guys. Okay, well, that's great. Correspondence, we have 10.1, Waste Reduction Week 2020. On page 157, there's an ask for us to recognize the week in October. Any thoughts? Any desires?
Reducing waste is awesome. That's right.
Someone like to move to make this week happen?
I'll move that council directs District of Euclid authorize signatures to execute the shareholders' resolution in lieu of the 2020 annual general meeting for the Euclid Economic Development Corporation. Oh,
No,
no.
go back.
Sorry, I'm
157, you're right.
just
You're ahead.
about
It's all good.
finished it. Thought it was all awesome.
No, it's a pretty simple one. I'm just looking for, I'll make a motion here to support this October 19th to 25th Waste Reduction Week in Canada. Can I get a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second that.
That-
And then can we just pretend I was moving on? Like I'm all
Yeah.
over it.
What did I miss there? Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Cole. I know you're eager to get to 159 here, so, but we're gonna have a little pause here first. We're gonna get into council committee reports first. Councillor McEwen sends her regrets. Okay, and Councillor Kemps.
So the Recovery Task Force still meets every 2 weeks. Last week we put out a press release regarding our Show Your Love for the West Coast, and that it was a joint campaign with the First Nations communities and Tofino and Ucluelet, which is great. And that's just asking visitors to show care and respect for our area and wear a mask and do your social distancing. So we've got a whole bunch of bumper stickers that we'll start handing out to all the businesses, and yeah, so we'll put that out. And also on the August 21st, I'm part of this West Coast Local Labor Market Indicator project. So the vision is that it be an ongoing project that will provide the necessary data to determine the fluctuations of supply and demand in our community. I was a little kind of on the fence about sitting on another working group and not knowing if there was any great stride of going forward with this, but I think with the people on there, we thought that because of StatsCan, it doesn't really show us information for our communities. So this would show information for our communities. So when we do advocate for things like healthcare, that kind of thing, which we really find when we sit on this recovery task force that we're really needed. It's not just a new hospital, but we need like healthcare workers. That this might be a great to have these numbers to be able to advocate moving forward. So I'll continue to sit on this working group moving forward, and I'll just bring any information there how we can proceed with that.
So is that working group, so it's community specific, so it would actually break up, say, Tofino from Ucluelet,
Exactly.
from
Yeah.
a Howsett, or,
Yeah.
oh, that could be really, really good for,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I look forward to your reports.
Yeah. We will see what comes out, but they should have been cut. They're coming. They're coming, right,
Okay.
Joey? They're coming.
Kind of against it, but I might make an exception.
You like bumper stickers? We'll tag the back of your unit.
Can I
card
just
there.
get one big mask for the front of my, I should borrow, yeah.
I'll put one on the ambulance.
That's what I'm
There you
saying.
go.
We're gonna tag it. Okay. Anything else? You good?
No, it's it.
Councillor Hoare?
Just tagging on to the new bumper stickers that I'm looking forward to. Just in case you didn't already know, masks are mandatory at the co-op now. I haven't had any meetings or anything. I have a Wild Pacific Trail meeting tomorrow night, so I'm just going to get on my high horse again. So masks are now mandatory. They will start charging for masks, so do try to remember to keep your own in your pocket if you don't want to end up owing us $1. But I just want to say that we have had trouble trying to hire somebody to work the door. So all of the departments are taking turns on the door. And I knew it was bad. And then yesterday I had somebody who refused to wear a mask, called me a fascist for telling him that he wasn't allowed in the store. I'm going by what I'm told. Mandatory masks means you wear some sort of shielding across your nose and mouth to come in and shop. Above my pay grade, as it were, to have the argument with him, so I paged somebody. But I just want to say, please be kind to the staff. They're just letting you guys know what the rules are in the store. Please don't take it out on them. They didn't write the rules. They're just asking you to please be kind and keep everybody safe.
I'm just going to make another recommendation because that's what I'm doing.
Moving on.
So whether it was the ACRD since we last met, it seems as though most tables that I'm sitting at, the main topic of the last few weeks has been our back roads and West Main. And that's probably enough said because we all acknowledge what's happening and where we're going and what we need to do and et cetera, et cetera. Looking forward to similar conversations. I do have tomorrow with a multi-agency meeting for the West Coast that revolves around mental health and substance abuse, wearing my other hat. So that is part of that topic as well because there's a lot of both of those issues out there. Aside from that, it was a pretty lovely month since I was in Port Hardy the last time that you guys got to sit here, but this is lovely. I'm super happy to be seen back here. And yeah, I think that's it. Want me to make a recommendation?
No, not yet.
Stand by.
Yeah, I just, so everything's a big whirlwind for all of us. It's hard to pinpoint all the things that we're doing, I think, in a day or in a week. But at the end of the day, I'm quite happy with some of the media that's been, that show your love to the West Coast that's ramped up. And really just identifying the fact is that statement is about what's happening in our district. It doesn't matter if you're coming here or whether you're going to parks or you're going to the back road country to go fishing. I don't know why I said fishing.
Well, I know why, but
just reminding people to do that. Unfortunately, Councillor Horry, there is that small sector that we're really trying to get that message to. But generally, what I see, I think most of us are seeing is it's really encouraging to know that the residents of this community have a zero tolerance to seeing those kind of activities, legal camping and disregard to our beaches. And I think that really, for us sitting in these chairs, it makes a decision quite easy knowing that enforcement, getting people not to not randomly park and camp in public venues, that is not what we want to see. And so I just, that's my probably biggest takeaway in the last few weeks is people want to see enforcement and they want to see visible. They don't want to see campers in our community that are not permitted, right? So, okay, that's all I got to report. And we got some reports that you're going to get to. Two of them is 12.1, Ucluelet Economic Development Corporation 2020 Annual Report. Did you want to speak to it at all?
You're gonna have to pass it.
Yeah, I can, through the mayor. This report is just seeking, it's having council authorize the signing of the UEDC's annual report. These reports come up every year. There's a series of, as a corporation, there are a series of motions that you pass every year as well. And that's exactly what you're authorizing the UEC's board of directors to do by making this resolution, Because of course, as the shareholder in this case, you act as a board, and as a board, you make those decisions. So it's authorizing the shareholders' resolution for the year, and then authorizing the directors, some of whom are council members, to submit the annual report. Then at a future date, we're going to come back with options on how you could use this corporation in the future. And if you don't use this corporation in the future, the process associated with dissolving it. So we're not there yet, and we'll hopefully bring you those options sooner than later.
Great.
Are there any questions?
At the end of the day, it's no harm, no foul, right?
Go for it.
Read it
Yeah,
again?
you do it again.
I'll just do it again. Rewind. That council directs the District of Ecoola's authorized signatories to execute the shareholders' resolution in lieu of the 2020 annual general meeting for the Ecoula Economic Development Corporation.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Joseph.
Now let's just give Bruce a second to come in.
Yeah,
He's just in the other room making space for.
Hi,
making
Bruce.
space. You're making space. The council meeting would not be right without Mr. Gregg's presentation.
I
so.
know.
Okay, 12.2, application for mobile vending business license at 1708 Peninsula Road. Mr. Gregg, welcome.
Thank you, through the mayor. This is, I think, fairly straightforward. It is, as council may recall, our business license bylaw requires that any business license for mobile vending needs council approval. It's a bit unique that way over other types of businesses. And then in this location, just pointing out that a development permit has been issued for the location. So really, this is a change of vendor at this point to go from cheeses to West Coast salty buns. And noting that they do intend to make an application to expand, or I guess amend their development permit to allow a second location so that they could potentially both operate there next year, I guess. But at this point, they haven't made that application. I think just timing-wise, it works for everyone, it appears, to really have the new truck move in place. Take the one approved spot, and then they will make a later application to see about getting a second spot. I also just wanted to note that there is the late item that was correspondence from the ANAF regarding, there was a condition around some landscaping which hasn't occurred yet, and they made some comments around their sort of timing, and particularly this year, I think financially are not eager to be spending money on that just yet. But that's something that certainly, if they are, as you understand, coming in with an application for a second location, that would be a good time to sort of iron out the plans for that as well. Beyond that, I'll just ask if there's any questions.
I do have a couple questions.
Yeah, sorry.
A couple questions. So when this DP was issued in 2018, so it was for a year-round, not just seasonal. It was for a year-round food truck.
The food truck, it didn't, as I recall, it's been a little while, the permit was for a location. At the time, it was understood that it was seasonal, that they are there's definitely a season to when their business operates, but there's no stipulation that it is limited to that. If there were an event or something happening in the winter where they thought it would be worthwhile setting up there, that certainly that location could be put to use.
And another question. Sorry, I just interjected. So the outstanding requirements from that DP in 2018, the landscaping and so forth, was there a date where they were supposed to be completed by?
It was supposed to be within 18 months, the permit reads. So, again, they've made some indications, the ANAF has, that they intend to pursue that. I think just because of cash flow. They're, I think, requesting to take a little more time.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been installed. Essentially, the food truck, when it's been there, has been on what's basically the existing parking lot. That there have been some very rough ideas about some planters and some landscaping to improve the streetscape. And those haven't been installed yet.
So this is not really a. Yeah, it's on. It's on. It's on. Yeah. Okay. So regarding, like, I support this other food truck going in, but I'm wondering at this point, through the mayor, if we could. I just think there's a bigger conversation to be had here before another DP is put forward, like regarding that property and what that looks like food truck wise, and are we able to ask at this point, I don't know if this is right, but to be able to ask if the Army Navy could come as a delegation, or Bronwyn or Casha or someone, or the president to come as a delegation, so we could have like a open, transparent conversation? Is that something that I could ask here?
Through the mayor, I suppose council could put that out there. Typically, what I think we would expect is a sort of a process that for them to add a second food truck would require an amendment to their development permit. That would essentially give us a sketch, show us where the new food truck's going to be, show us where the landscaping is going to be. We would bring that in a report to council, and that was just sort of the, I guess, the anticipated process rather than a sort of a delegation, but really to bring it, and essentially then it would be council would need to be satisfied with what the plan was before issuing that amendment to the development permit.
Through the mayor, Mr. Gregg, would that be the point that we would then expect that everything that they said that they would have done by the 18 months past last July, a year prior, would be completed before we would look at amending or extending or adding to, or?
Through the mayor, I wouldn't presuppose, but that would be a chance for council to specify what the expectation is, so that there was a timeline. Now time has passed, so certainly before approving another location, that would be totally within council's purview to want to have that specified. Landscaping is something that also, like typically with a for-profit developer with a development permit, we can require a deposit. It's up to 125% of the cost of doing the landscaping. That essentially means that if a development, say, is constructed in the public landscaping, the part that's sort of affects the public streetscape, if it's not built, well, then the municipality can use that security to make sure it happens. I'm not suggesting that's the answer here, but some element or expectation of what's the timeline, what are the details of it that could be tied to that application, so that council's satisfied before approving anything in terms of like the second food truck.
I'm just looking at the sketches, the landscape plan sketches, both in the late and the early versions. And so the plan was to actually close off one of the accesses to that parking lot. Is that what I'm gathering from the late edition?
Through the mayor, yes. And in the original development permit, that was something that was sort of discussed and definitely supported by staff, that the driveway is actually a lane, a public lane that runs on the south side towards Hartwood. On that side is really a shared, that is a public, it's a type of small road, that lane. So that could be the primary access, and that what was described for the original development permit was closing off that other narrow lane, essentially to improve it for pedestrians on the street. So you don't have two driveways, cars sort of coming and going, but also allows them to make something there that's a lot more sort of attractive and engaging rather than access to parking. So the sketches are certainly not a lot of detail, but show some intent, and that's what the original development permit and our expectation, I guess, going forward to provide some more detail.
Yeah, I was just confused because they were quite different. So, wasn't sure which one was in play, as it were, for the stuff that hasn't been done. And I know their cash flow is low because they're not running karaoke, and means I have Friday nights off.
For the foreseeable future. Any other questions for Mr. Gregg? I struggle with it too. I think at the end of the day, for myself, I'm okay substituting one with the other. Obviously, there's going to be some further debate on this conversation. It is a very busy little spot here. It's going to be slowing up. But when the spring does come, each one of us will be talking to some of the board members of the Army and Navy over the next couple of months, because they're going to go, what happened here today. But we really need to to understand, what that could look like. If that's the Army and Navy's intention, is turning that into a 5 or 6 vendors working there because their business model doesn't work anymore. I think that's what we need to get to the root with the Army and Navy, and just ask them that clear understanding, and wait for staff to provide us their thoughts on that. One thing that's very evident on page 161, if you look at the subject property, there is a clear laneway between Larch and Peninsula, and I think that's what staff is trying to, at the end of the day, try to establish that with those boxes. But anyways, I'm supportive of the change that's presented before us, but knowing that there's definitely going to be some legwork that's going to be needed to get Mr. Cheese back into his spot there, right? Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a recommendation.
I will move that council approve the issuance of a business license to Brandon and April Thompson for mobile vending on Lot 1, Plan VIP 5190, Clayoquot District 1708, Peninsula Road, to operate in a location previously approved for a mobile vending on July 10th, 2018 by development permit number 3050-20-DP18-04.
Second. Councillor Cole, any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
Do we know what Salty Buns does? Are they pretzels? I'm curious.
October 1st.
I know.
Find out.
There.
Yeah.
What day of the week is it? I'll probably be at
Trying
work.
to get lunch in Tofino today? In the future, we will need more. Who wants to wait 45 minutes, an hour?
Some people
Yeah.
are. They look at a coffee.
Half a bag of
anyways.
lunch.
Let's make sure we give people more options than that.
Yeah. Okay. Legislation, we have one item, 13.1, Freedom of Information Bylaw Update.
This is me again, through the mayor. I'm actually going to go stand up there. It's easier for me. Thank you. Through the mayor, what I'm introducing here is a new Freedom of Information bylaw. The Freedom of Information Act and Privacy Act is what regulates how we deal with people's private information and also how we deal with requests for district documents. Some documents are always available, other documents are not. For example, our bylaws and the minutes and agendas are always available, and other documents have to be requested. The Freedom of Information bylaw is the bylaw that specifies who has the decision to make and to deal with these matters. Our current bylaw establishes that my position, or the clerk administrator is what they describe it as in the previous bylaw, has the authority to deal with most matters, to deal with freedom of information requests, except when you're in a situation where there's a little bit of deference that council can have. So in certain requests, you can be in a situation where, you could say, provide this, but don't provide that, because we believe this is of this nature. And the major change that's happening here is that authorization will then be shifted to me, or to my position. And then I, rather than council, would name a coordinator, someone to assist me with those situations. That formula is what's generally recommended by the LGMA, and it's what's generally done in other communities, and we're therefore recommending the exact same. Are there any questions that I can?
Thank you. Sold us.
I'll move that recommendation,
Please
the
do.
one that council give first, second, and third reading to District of Ucluelet Council Freedom of Information and Protection Bylaw number 1279, 2020.
Second by Councillor Cole. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Any other business? Oh, perfect.
I would motion, please.
Please.
That the District of Euclid indicate to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch, LCRB, that the temporary expand service areas for food primary, liquor primary, and manufacturing licensees should be extended for another year until October 31st, 2021.
Can we get a seconder on that one, please?
Somebody seconds it.
I will second it.
Yes.
Yes. I will second that.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we got that on the floor. Any discussion on that one?
I got
I think we got one.
I am completely in favor of knowing we need to extend this. But being that 8 months ago we never saw what was happening for these 6 months, I believe we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 6 months. And I think it's always easier to, at this meeting in 6 months, take another quick motion, extend it for another 6 months, as opposed to make it for a year, and then in 6 months, things are so, maybe we need to expand it, maybe we need to crack down on it, maybe we need to completely alter the model. But in 6 months, it would be a lot easier to re-grant something or alter something than it would be to try and take something back, because now we extended something that really isn't fitting what the new normal or how things are going to be in 6 months. So I don't think there's any harm or foul in saying, and I get that a lot of places are probably doing a year, but it literally is one sentence and a conversation and a couple of hands up to do it again in 6 months. And that is my only thought, because there are so many unknowns.
Is Mr. Gregg still in the building? Yeah, I just want to get clarity on something, just before I want to just give you a little peace of mind on a couple things. Did you have a follow-up question?
So this came from the BC Restaurant Association. I remember sending that letter. So this letter is going to all municipalities and all cities, and everyone wants to support that. So if we give 6 months, like honestly, the restaurants in our town are really going to do it from May till October. Right? So this will, if we gave it 6 months now, it would be, because we're not going to be using extended patios or liquor outside and when it's blowing 90, right? So honestly, I think they're just going to be using it for those 6 months in the season. So we're just granting it, making it like a blanket kind of thing, a blanket request to the LCRB. You know what I mean? Through the BC Restaurant Association.
Thank you for coming back, Mr. Gregg. It was just a motion put on the floor. Can you read it one more time there? Are you aware of the motion that Councillor Kemps was doing? Yeah, okay, go ahead. No, it's all good. So you're not set up here. This is not a setup. It's all good.
You're on the kids. Okay. That the District of Euclid indicate to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch, LCRB, that the temporary expand service areas for food primary, liquor primary, and manufacturing licensees should be extended for another year until October 31st, 2021.
And the reason I brought you back in, Councillor Cole is not 100% comfortable with the 12-month. I would just like for you maybe just to remind us the process that unfolded for those few businesses that actually wanted to take advantage of it, because not all businesses took advantage of it, correct?
No, correct. There are
Maybe just remind us how that unfolded.
certainly through the mayor. So this came out as I recall, very quickly, where this announcement of expanding to allow outdoor seating was somewhat being streamlined by the LCRB. And at the same time, those outdoor seating areas are I was going to say typically, but I think entirely within areas that are designed or defined as development permit areas. So if your restaurant normally would do an expansion out onto the street, that it changes the form and character of the streetscape, so you would need a DP for that. So we came to council and said, well, if this isn't happening, the intent absolutely makes sense to allow businesses to adapt. So we really... we really had to, we streamlined the DP process and got a council motion to kind of pre-authorize those outdoor seating area DPs. And I think we issued, within a couple of days, we issued half a dozen of them. But it was for a period of time, which also was to the same time period of October. So that's just another consideration.
Right.
So it is sort of goes hand in hand. The licensing of can you serve alcohol in these outdoor seating, patio spaces, but also these were temporary, these development permits were for temporary seating areas. If they wanted to make them permanent, well, they'd need to apply for a DP and in some cases actually physically make some changes. So if the intent of council is to extend this for a period of time, I think we would also look at, okay, does that also expand, or does council wish to extend those temporary development permits just to allow it to continue, or is it some other period of time in there? Or we would look to council's direction on that.
You have a follow-up?
So I guess my perspective was, sorry, through the mayor, Mr. Gregg, is that I guess I don't understand what we would stand to lose by covering our bases by doing it for 6 months. And then again in another 6 months when we see how these 6 months evolve, because we actually have no idea how the 6 months are going to evolve, just like we never saw these last 6 coming. And it's always easier just to have this same motion in 6 months and continue on with another 6 months to get everybody through next summer, should we be status quo in this ever-changing moment, rather than doing it for a year and realizing, geez, we kind of wish that we would have done something a little different, more, less, completely a different structure, and then try to take something away or look like we should have maybe.
I guess my question to you, because I'm okay with the 12 months, knowing that it's going to be some legwork to be done. This topic's going to be come to an end of October, just because that's what the temporary use. That come the spring, this conversation is probably going to come before us, and hopefully the planning, I would vision the planning department, if successful, if the liquor branch were to say yes, that there would be an application process of, okay, it's 2021, here what we're going to do. You know, when I think about revisiting it in 6 months, because right now October, 6 months, I'm going to agree with Lara that there's not going to be really too many patios, and just trying to be mindful of the work the planning staff is going to be, be doing. But also, I guess the question for you is there something that you have seen that you didn't like, that maybe that you be more specific?
No, I'm just trying to have foresight on something that we can't possibly have
No,
foresight
that's
on.
fine. I just want to know if there was something there that you'd seen.
Nope. I kind of go back to, okay, there's no pools land anymore, so where are all these people going to go and worrying about that? And then we have something compounded that we're dealing with on a totally different level. I guess my question would be, do we stand to, in 6 months, when we sit here and we revisit it and you make the same motion, do we stand the chance of not being able to do that because things have changed in 6 months? We don't have the right to do that? What do we stand? Do we stand something to lose?
Through the mayor, ultimately the licensing, this was a temporary sort of adaptation that the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch sort of put out there. It's really that part of licensing these spaces is entirely in their hands. That could, I suppose, be repealed or changed or not renewed or amended to be some other kind of a program or stream, I suppose. So I can't.
I don't. I see. For me, I just see that there was. I see the positive, and I also see the streamlinedness, knowing that most communities have noticed that there was a benefit to this. So I think they're just trying to be a little bit proactive, and I would. I'd hate to say it. I would say be more than 12. It's just like, I would like to see more of a. I would like to see more of just a whole review of the whole liquor thing. But, we do have that motion on the floor here, which I'm supportive of.
Yeah, I think it's just, we're doing like a blanket. I think all these communities, what we want to do is gather all this information from all the municipalities and put it out to the Liquor Cannabis Board to, instead of like a 6 months, a 12-month, you know what I mean? Just have one straight blanket motion that all these communities support this, so we're all on the same page, right?
This is not, just to remind you, and I don't know if you're going down that, but you brought up the back roads, this is not about having alcohol sales at Big Beach. This is specific to a couple, just what you're seeing right now is there's a possibility it would just be earlier. It wouldn't be implemented come June. It would be perhaps in April of 2021.
And it's probably just going to be used from like May to the end of October. I'm just honestly, I'm very worried about the businesses going. I mean, we made it through a great summer. The businesses are in such a very tight margin that I'm very worried about what the winter and the spring are going to bring. So the another positive thing that we could give to these businesses that will help them throughout the better, right?
Yeah, I think it's.
So I get that the warm and fuzzy feeling that that you're guaranteed to be able to operate next summer the way you did this summer, should things continue this way. But anytime we're using, let's just blanket everything with the same, when every community is different and every blanketing things Maybe it's that term.
No, I don't,
I don't know.
I don't think you should be so nervous, because at the end of the day, if Liquor Branch were to extend it, give municipalities the ability to provide that to the vendors for the business, to those let's half a dozen people come before us. This table would still be able to be the ones that, yes, we approve it or we don't. So there's still a process there, just because you do have more your concerns and you feeling warm and fuzzy about the subject matter. It will still be before you, just like it did last time. So, anyways, I'm just trying to.
I'm as concerned as everybody.
Yeah, we all are. It just, but it's. I think it was great this summer, but, and I'm not saying that you're not saying that either. It's just you're just cautious.
It's all good. I just.
Oh, sorry, Councillor.
And I'm just being quiet on the corner. So currently, all of the temporary use permits basically are up the end of October. So for the few that have. And just because we put this forward, it is just a motion for support. That doesn't extend those temporary use permits. Those still have to come
That's
through
correct.
to us, right? I'm just procedurally trying. So I'm just, not that I think we need necessarily a stopgap, but I hear what you're saying, Councillor Cole. Like we don't know 3 months down the road what's happening. And maybe in March, people want to expand onto the patio under an overhang.
But again, just for Councillor Hoare's question is, end of October, what's existing right now ends.
Yeah.
Those development permits expire.
Yeah.
And so if council wish to see them automatically renew or to have them individually come before council, that is entirely your purview. We would look for that direction, so to bring that back if there were potential.
But you wouldn't be able to do that without the Liquor Branch saying, look, this is an option for you. If they don't extend it past October 31st, we're just having
it's a
we're
moot
just having
point.
pretend conversations.
Through the mayor, it is sort of two different things in that,
Yeah.
one is the license to serve alcohol in those spaces. The other is having the space there with seating and a fence and whatnot.
Right.
It's kind of the physical and then the service piece.
Okay.
Each of the restaurants that have expanded their licensing area are doing both, and they overlap. This was really, and council had essentially delegated to staff to issue the DPs quickly to allow them to get on it. So again, that would be the sort of up, but if council wished to review and approve those, that is absolutely within your purview. So,
Okay, so the potential exists for a stopgap if needed.
I think you're going to have a
Yeah.
stopgap anyway,
Yeah,
unless some big
yeah.
announcement comes, and they're still going to have to come through a development permit add-on. So there's still
Yep.
going to be a stopgap anyways. Say again?
Yeah,
No.
you think?
That's usually on the sale bail or the.
People will
like
start
us.
putting sales on the little drinks and
Okay.
then watch it. having
Okay.
races.
Anyways, so any other comments? Seeing none. Okay, I'll call that question. So all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. That was a good discussion. Hey, who knew that was going to go like that? Eh? That's right. We are a team. Okay. Question period. Any questions from the public?
No questions at this time.
No questions. Okay, thank you. And I move procedural motion to move in camera that the meeting be closed to the public in order to address agenda items under section 91C, E, I, and K, and 92B of the community charter.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?